Hey everybody, so this is going to be story time with Anton, and we're going to talk about stories from my time with the largest automotive inspection company in the industry called Lemon Squad. That's a company that I formed many years ago, and a few years back, going on a little over 4 years I think, I sold it. So I'm getting ready to start a new inspection company when my non-compete is over, and it's making me think of old stories and things like that. And I thought I'd share some of these with you. It might be kind of interesting. So when I started the company, I didn't have a lot of money. And I had to find somebody to build me this massive system to, a website, but so much more than a website, payroll, inspectors logging in, customers logging in, admin logging in, reports, going out to reports, APIs to send the reports to different companies through their API system. All sorts of stuff going on with that website that had to happen. And again, I didn't have a lot of money. It was, today it's about 100 grand to make that website from scratch. And that's not the type of money I had back then. So you can imagine I was looking under every rock I could find to find somebody to do this type of work for me. And in that process, I had a couple of stories with some of these programmers I found, and I'm going to tell you a couple of them. The first one, I hired a guy to build the system. I already had one, but it was very bad. It wasn't doing everything I needed to do. So I hired somebody that said they could do it. And they built it. It wasn't good, had a lot of issues, and but we made it work. Lots of Band-Aids and stuff. Now, this guy that did this built this system for us. One day, I said to him, I said, hey, you're working on this system all the time. It's always expanding. It's always needing more things added to it as I find out what I need, because I was still young in the industry and I was still learning on what I needed and didn't need that system to do. And the longer you stay around, the more stuff you want it to do. And I asked him, I said, do you think you could just come on full time with my company and be an employee instead of this contracted programmer building me a system? And he agreed, and he came on. So I think it was probably about 9 months into it, after he became an employee, I found out that he liked to drink at home while he programs, which explained a lot of the issues we were having with him. But he said something to me one day. He said to me, I have a friend. So he had this friend, and this friend was interested in buying my company. Now, I had never thought about selling it at that time. That was the furthest thing from my mind. It was still growing. I was completely engrossed into my business, and I didn't think of it. But after I wrapped my head around that, I thought, well, I should at least talk to the guy. So I did. The guy's name was Jonathan. I won't mention his last name. And Jonathan wanted to meet me at a Famous Dave's barbecue shack. I don't know if I know they're a chain in the Minnesota area, but I don't know how far out of Minnesota they go. So I'm not sure if you've ever heard of Famous Dave's, but we met there. And I sat there and talked to him, and I answered all his questions. I made him sign a non-compete before our questions started. And he asked a lot of questions. And he asked some really good questions too that somebody truly interested in the business would have asked. So I thought, okay, he's done his homework to know these questions. And he asked me a bunch. And while we were there, I had about a half a rack of ribs and some sides. And I'm not even kidding you. He ate probably 6 or 7 full racks of ribs while he was asking these questions. He's a big guy, and he could put it away. And I'll always remember that, because I've never seen anybody eat that much in one sitting in my life. To this day, it was unbelievable. And we finished that. He went his own way, and I didn't hear from him for a while. It had been about a month, and I asked the guy that worked for me. I said, is your friend interested? What's his deal? Does he want to talk again? And I remember I did talk to him one more time on the phone really quickly, and then that's the last time I ever talked to him. And I had to fire the programmer because I was having some issues with the quality and different things, and especially the drinking, right? The drinking was really bad, but what do you do when this guy built the system and you can't afford somebody else to come in and take over? So I was really left really high. It was a tough situation for me, but I had to make that decision, got rid of him. And I would say it was probably about 6 months later, all of a sudden a website popped up on the internet called Cars Inspection with a Z, CARZinspection.com. And I didn't see the website right away. I had inspectors calling me up that worked for us that were very angry for us giving out their information to another inspection company. So all of a sudden I'm getting these calls from inspectors going, I didn't give you permission to give my info out. And I said, well, who's got it? What's going on? And they said, well, this car's inspection company has got my info and I don't want to do work for them. I only want to do work for you. So I looked them up and I thought, God, that's kind of crazy. And I could log into that site with my username and password because I was like, this is crazy. It kind of looks like my site. They had changed it a little bit, changed the name, and once I logged in, it was my website that I had built. It was my back end, my everything. They just changed the front end look of it. So the programmer and his buddy just were pimping me for information, and then they went out and stole all my inspectors, stole my website, stole everything I had that made my company what it is, intellectual property. And they started a new company. Now, I got my friend who's a lawyer involved, and his name's Paul Godfried. If you're in Minnesota and you need an amazing lawyer, Paul Godfried's the guy. And we're very, very good friends, and to this day, we're still together, even though this happened years ago. He's just a great guy. Talked to him multiple times yesterday. But anyway, got him involved. He was able to get Alan, well, first of all, he got a court case going. I'm not real court savvy, so hopefully I'm explaining this part right. And we tried to take them to court. We got Alan, the one guy, into court, and he had to pay back $5,000. We got the website shut down. We owned the domain, but the other guy, the guy that ate all the ribs, we were trying to serve him. We had a server go out who gives them the papers so that he knows he's been served for court. And he knew that the server knew this Jonathan guy from serving him in the past. They knew each other. So now a little bit more information on Jonathan. He had told me that he lived in Cannon Falls, Minnesota, and he was this big millionaire, lots of money. And he owned this amazing house and whatever. When he was served, we found out the truth. He lived in the basement of his sister's tiny little house, and the server had served him so many times before, they knew each other from that, and every time we tried to serve him, he'd waddle his ass back in the garage and then close the door and go in the house and hide. So we never actually got to serve him, but because he was doing that, the courts allowed us, by posting something on the internet or in the paper or something, to say that we served him, and because he knew he was being served. So we took him to court. He never showed up. We got a judgment, never got a dime out of the guy. And a couple of years ago, during COVID, he passed away, I'm told. So, but at least we got him shut down. No love lost there. Now, that's been quite a few years ago. Now, Alan, who was part of that deal, he was our programmer. We talked recently. After all these years, and he apologized for it. And he said he was wrong. And he said that he even got screwed over by this Jonathan guy. But, so there's one thing. There's one story from Lemon Squad that wasn't very fun. You're striving, you're working real hard to make something of yourself, make something of your company, and then somebody steals it all from you. It's a rotten feeling. And I just felt, I can't even explain the feelings I felt. It was tough. It was really hard. But fortunately, I had a good lawyer, and he got to shut it down, and it didn't really cost me all that much to do it. So that's one story. I'm going to tell you guys another story. This one's a little crazier even. So, and it also has to do with a programmer. So I had graduated from that website that we had built, and I needed something bigger and better. And I found a guy. And this gentleman I found looked like he crawled from underneath a rock. But again, I didn't have a lot of money, and I was working with what I had and who I could use. And he told me $10,000 if I gave him, he was going to build this system for me. And I was supposed to give him that money in increments. $5,000 down, a couple grand, and a couple grand. And what he did was he started working on it. I gave him $5,000 down, and things started going okay. And I was all right, it's working. But then out of nowhere, he says, here, you need to do a bunch of this work too. You need to fill out these and this. And what he asked me to do was a lot of work that I wasn't expecting. And I was running the company, and I didn't have time to do that. But I just bucked up and did what he asked, even though that wasn't what I felt part of the deal. So anyway, paid him the $5,000, and then we're getting closer to the $10,000, little increments, and he's just about done, and he wants the last payment. My bad. I should have let him finish it, handed it over to me, give him the last payment to make the $10,000. I didn't. He was just about done. I was going to get it on a Friday, and he wanted to be paid on a Wednesday, and I gave him all the money. $10,000 gone. Come Friday, he didn't give me what I paid for. He said, this was a lot harder than I expected, he said, and I need an extra $5,000. And I was like, I'm not giving you an extra $5,000. That wasn't the deal. And he chewed me out. He was really upset with me, and he disappeared. And I never found him. I could never find him again. So anyway, that was, I guess, I'm not sure how long it was. But anyway, I would say about a year after all this happened, LinkedIn did something really strange that, I think there was a lawsuit even with LinkedIn for this. I'll tell you what it was. And this will fit into the story. If you sign up with a LinkedIn account, it asks you, like all these sites do you want to add your friends, add your contact list or whatever? And I said, yeah, do it. Go for it. Add it. So what it did, though, it didn't just add your current contact list. It went through your Google email. And even if they weren't in your contact list, if you emailed anybody or got an email from anybody, any type of correspondence email ever, it sent out an email saying, hey, do you want to be my buddy? You want to be my LinkedIn buddy? And that was a nightmare in itself, because not only did that doof get that email that ripped me off $10,000 a year later, he got the email, and he replied, by the way, and he just said, hey, Andy, F you. That's all it said. I used to go by Andy. It's my nickname. If you guys didn't know that, my family calls me Andy. But that's what he said. He said, hey, Andy, F you. And I also had some really crappy customers over the years that got emails and said, hey, I know you're a crappy customer, but do you want to be my LinkedIn buddy? And it was fun hearing from them doofs too. That wasn't we had a lot of great customers, but you've been in business that long, you get some bad ones too. So when he emailed me back and said, hey, Andy, F you, this is a year later now. I was pissed. So I thought, I'm going to get you. I'm going to get you. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm going to get you. And I Googled him. I wanted to start researching this guy. I want to know a little bit more about him. And the first thing that I saw was the Hennepin County Sheriff's Department, 10 most wanted. Hennepin County is Minneapolis, St. Paul, and surrounding area. He was on the 10 most wanted for really bad things. I don't know what I can say here on YouTube. I don't just really bad things with minors. Hopefully that's not censored, but he's a really bad guy, and he was wanted by the sheriff's department in Hennepin County. So they couldn't find him. So right then and there, I said, I'm going to find this guy. I might not be able to get my money back, but he's going to prison. So I did my best to find him, and I remembered that he had worked for a company where he actually finished the website because he was proud of it, and he showed it to me. And with some research on the internet and dancing around, we were able to find him. He was located in Colorado, and he was living in a trailer at the time. I just picture it like in the middle of the woods or something. I really don't know how it was, but he was in Colorado. So he had left town out of Minnesota to Colorado to hide out. They arrested him. And this is many, many years ago. And he spent all these years in prison. I think he just got out recently. And if he sees this, hopefully he doesn't come at me. If he does, it's going to be a bad situation for him. But yeah, he was a bad guy. And he spent all those years in prison. And, so I'd still like to get my 10 grand back from the loser. I know that's never going to happen, but at least I can say, hey, this bad guy did some really bad things, and I helped put him away for a long time. I can say that. So there's 2 programmer stories that I could tell you. So many more stories. When you have a business that long, and, you're just bound to have stories of different things and stuff. And I will tell more stories about that company now that my brain is wrapping back around the automotive inspection business with a new venture that I'll be taking on with a new company next year. I'll probably think of more. So anyway, story time with Anton. It's over now. Hope you all have a great rest of your day, and watch for that next video. We'll talk to you guys later.